In this chapter, we're going to be looking at loans or borrowing money. If you think about the first chapter we did, it was all about saving money. And when you save money, you're collecting interest. Your money will grow. When you're paying back loans or borrowing money, the interest is not going to you, it's going towards the person that is lending you the money. So you're paying interest. Okay, so we're going to look at some questions and types of loans. Basically, a loan is a type of debt. You're going to owe some money. You need some money, you borrow from someone, and when you have to repay that, there's usually an interest charge. Okay, normally we pay back loans in installments, often monthly. Usually when you have a loan, you're expected to have collateral. In other words, if you default on the loan, if you can't pay it back, the person that lends it to you wants to have something that they will get in return. So, for example, if you borrow money to pay for a house and you default on your loan, then you have to return the house, and so they would get the house. Okay? To kind of look at what interest does, or when you're paying back a loan, we're going to look at what's called an amortization table. And it basically shows how much of each payment is going towards interest and how much is going towards the principal, in other words, paying back the loan. So in this question, we're borrowing $12,000 and we're agreeing to pay back $350 each month. Okay, the table's partially filled out for you, but where did this come from? Well, with simple interest, the principal times 5% times 1 over 12, because it's not a year, it's just 1 month. 1 out of 12 months gives you $50. Okay, so the interest for the first payment is 50. That means out of the 350, 300 is left to pay down the loan. So you take away 300 here, and the new loan for the next month will be 11,700. Okay, and let's repeat that now. Interest is going to be 11,700 times 0.05 times 1/12. And you'll see that now the interest is slightly less, meaning there's a little bit more to pay towards the principal. So this time you're subtracting $301.25. And we can continue this table by continually calculating the interest. Why don't you pause the video right now and see if you can fill out a couple of these. Okay. So if you fill out the rest of the table, it's going to look like this. You can check your answers by pausing the video. A couple things you should notice. You'll notice that each month the interest rate decreases and the principal amount increases. This is important to understand. When you borrow money, traditionally, the initial few payments are mostly the interest, and as you get closer and closer to paying it off fully, there's less and less interest. Okay, so it seems like interest is kind of front-loaded. It's just because interest is a percentage of what's left to pay. Okay, now you may think this is not a big deal, that going from $50 of interest to $35 in interest is not that much, but if you think about this, this is only a small loan for 1 year. If you think about buying a house over 20 years, that's significant how the interest will slowly and slowly and slowly become less and less. Okay, in this case, for 1 year, the total interest was $516.33, and I just did that by adding up that column. Okay, so that's a basic look at how interest affects paying off a loan. This is what we'll be looking at in more detail. Okay, so we completed this amortization table. How much has Lars paid altogether in loan payments? We can add that up. If you look, he's going to pay $350 times 12 months, so he ends up paying a total of $4,200. Okay. How much of that is interest? $516.33. How much of the principal was paid back? Well, it started with $12,000, and when we leave that table, there was still $8,316.33 33 cents left, meaning that we have paid off $3,683.67 from the loan. Okay, what is the balance? That's this amount, $8,360. That's what's still owed after 1 year. Okay. As described above, Lars borrowed $12,000 at 5% compounded monthly. After 1 year of payments, he still had a balance owing. In which month will Lars have at least half the loan paid off? Okay, so let's take a look at part A. So, let's fill this out. What goes where? Well, we started by owing $12,000. Notice it's negative. We are making payments of negative $350. Sorry, back up. That is not negative because we didn't pay that. That's given to us as a loan. We're paying the $350. My mistake. This is positive. Okay. What is the interest rate? It was 5% compounded monthly. And we are making monthly payments. Okay. And the first question says, when will the loan be half paid off? So when will there be still $6,000 owing? Okay, so let's figure out what is N. N will be 1925, and this is in months. So what does that mean? That means the 20th month he will have paid off half the loan. Remember, at 19 months, you will have not been to 6,000 yet. Okay, so it's going to take us 20 months. You can't have part months in a question like this. Okay, let's do part B. Why don't you pause it and see if you can figure this out. So this time we're going to go to paying off the loan. It's the same loan, the same payments, the same interest, the same PYCY. But what is the final value this time? If you're paying it off, it's going to be 0. How long does it take to get to 0? It says 37.073, which is what? Will it be 37 months? Because that's pretty close to 37. No, 37 months wouldn't quite pay it off. So 38 months it will take. Now that last month, it probably isn't a full payment because you probably don't owe $350 anymore, but it won't be finished paying off after 37 months. Okay? Part C, how much interest will Lars have paid by the time he has paid off his loan? 2 ways to do this again. Okay? Maybe the easiest way, because we don't have to calculate how much he actually paid, is to use this button. Okay, so you're going to go from 1 to 38, right? Because 38 is how many months it takes. So this is from the first month to the 38th month. And if you do that, how much interest are we paying? $975.66. All right. Okay. Again, I'd like you to pause your video and let's try the next question. Actually, I'm going to leave this question out. I don't really like this question. Let's go straight to the third example. Okay. So pause the video and let's see if you can figure out what goes here. All right, she wants a home improvement loan to renovate her kitchen. Her bank will charge her 3.6 compounded quarterly, so let's put that in already. She already has a 10-year GIC that will mature in 5 years. When her GIC reaches maturity, Annette wants to reuse the money to repay the home improvement loan with one payment. Okay, she wants the amount of the payment to be no more than 20%. $20,000. Okay, so how much can she borrow? So what can she start with so that the final amount would only be $20,000? Okay, so we're going to have 5 years. And there's going to be no payments here. And what we want to know is what is the initial value so that we can end up with $20,000? Okay, so what do we have to borrow at 3.6% to end up with $20,000? Okay, so let's put this in here, and it turns out to be $16,718.86. Now, I can't stress this enough. I hope you're pausing the video and trying to enter these things on your own. It doesn't do any good just to copy down what I'm doing. You need to understand where these values are coming from. If you're not sure, you need to ask. Okay, you need to know where is this coming from. Okay, so what this is saying is if we borrowed this amount, that after 5 years, the value would be $20,000. Okay, so I know that the question is a little bit confusing, but what this thing says right here is that when her GIC comes out, she will want to pay it off, and she doesn't want it to be more than $20,000. So the question is saying, how much could she originally borrow so that it ends up at $20,000? So that's what this question is saying. How much interest will she pay? Let's get used to using this. Okay, so from 1 to 5. So this interest would be $3,000. Oh, that doesn't look very good. $3,281.14. Okay, so next let's get into a mortgage. This is big because a lot of people eventually want to buy a house. Okay, a mortgage is a loan used to purchase real estate, with the real estate purchased used as collateral to secure the loan. Okay. So let's try this question. Jose is negotiating with his bank for a mortgage on a house. He has been told that he needs to make a $10,000 down payment on the purchase price of $225,000. Okay, let's quickly look at that 10% down payment. No bank is going to give you a loan for a house if you don't have any money to start with. What you always need to do is put down a down payment. You need to come up with an initial amount. So we want to know what is 10% of $225,000. Well, this is 0.1 times $225,000, and that's going to be $22,500. So that's what you need to come up with. So what is the mortgage going to be? Well, now we need to figure out what is the mortgage. If you're going to pay $22,500 up front, then let's subtract that from what the mortgage is. And that is $202,500. So this is my mortgage. Notice it's positive because I'm not spending that money. I'm being given that money. I have to repay it. Okay. So what else do we know? The bank will offer the mortgage loan for 3.75 compounded semi-annually. By the way, for mortgages, it's almost always that. In fact, I can't think of when it isn't. It's always going to be 2. Okay. Then the bank will offer a mortgage with a term of 20 years and with monthly mortgage payments. So we're doing monthly payments for 20 years. And we want to end up with 0, paying off the house. What do you think it's going to cost each month to buy this house? Well, if we put that into the calculator, we get $1,197.55. That is your monthly mortgage payment. Okay. How much interest will Jose end up paying by the time he has paid off the loan in 20 years? Okay, again, there's the other way to do it. This one's much easier. Now that you've entered that into the TVM solver, we just want to figure out what is the interest from 1 to 20 years. Now, it's not 20 because it's the last payment, right? It's 20 times 12. So how much interest? $84,911.64. Does that seem crazy that you would have to pay that much in interest for a house that was worth $225,000? Or sorry, yeah, $225,000. That is a crazy amount. But that's reality for mortgages. Because you're borrowing money for over 20 years, you are paying a lot of interest. Okay, in fact, it used to be even crazier when interest rates weren't so low, because they're quite low now. When they were higher, sometimes you paid more in interest than you did for the actual value of the house. Okay? So how much would you pay altogether? A couple of ways we can do this, but we know that our monthly payments are this, and how many of those are we going to make? You're going to make them 12 times a year for 20 years. So you're going to end up paying $287,000, $412, right? Not quite. This is the mortgage. This is what you paid off for the mortgage. But do you remember how you put a down payment down as well? So the total would be $22,500 plus $287,412. Okay, so let's put that in the calculator. And the total cost for the house would be $309,912. All right, last example for today's lesson. Bill has been offered the following two options for borrowing $8,000. Okay, so in both cases, he's going to borrow $8,000, so let's put that in. Okay, option 1, you get 4.06% interest compounded annually, so that's once a year, and pay off the loan payments at $1,805 at the end of each year, so payments 1 per year. Okay. Does it say how many years? Oh, it's going to ask me how many times, how long is it going to take? All right, so I'm going to figure this out. Okay, let's try that. It turns out to be 4.999, which is 5 payments. Now the payments are happening every year. It's going to take 5 years. Okay. Now it's asking us for what advice would you give. So before I go and do the other one, I want to get a little more information here. Let's also figure out how much interest was paid, because now I know it took me 5 years. How much of this is interest? Well, if I go 1 to 5, I end up finding out that it would cost me $1,000 in interest. Okay, so I'm going to keep that in mind when I go and do the second question. So this one, again, it's 4.06 interest, compounded weekly, 52 times a year, and to pay off the loan and payments of $34.62 at the end of each week, so the payments are 52, so much more often. Okay, again, I want to get to 0. So what do you think? What's going to happen here? Which one is going to be better before you try this? Would it be better to pay it off paying once a year or every week? Well, if I do this, it turns out to be $254.9287, which is 255 payments. Well, that seems like way more, right? 255 payments? Well, let's go 255 divided by 52. What does that equal? 4.9 years. So which one's better? This one is 5 years. The other one's 4.9 years. Well, it looks like 4.9 is better because that's sooner, but I should also figure out, has one been cheaper? Has one chart cost me less interest? Okay, so I'm going to put this in the calculator, and it tells me that interest-wise, it was $825.67. So what does that tell you? That tells me option B is better. Why is it better? Because there's less interest, so I'm going to go point form here. Because there's less interest, there's less overall cost. And it's slightly less time. You can pay it off a little bit quicker. Okay? So keep that in mind. Some key ideas. Most loans are compound interest. The interest that is charged on a loan will be less under any or all of the following circumstances. Okay, the lower interest rate, it's going to be less for the loan. The least or the less frequency of compounding periods is better. Regular payments is better. If you pay off more sooner, the loan will be less. Okay, all of these things will help you decrease the amount of the loan. An amortization table is a payment schedule for a loan with regular payments. Okay, if you ever asked, what is this? It's just an outline of what your payments are each period. With each payment period, the interest paid decreases while the principal paid increases. We saw that. All right, time for a little bit of homework. I would like you to do page 92, numbers 1 to 7, 15 to 17. Okay? Let's try those questions. Get back to me if you have problems.